Here's another big story we are tracking this afternoon. The IEC case for local elections postponement is underway at the Constitutional Court. At least 7 parties have now been granted permission to join that application, either to support or those that are against it. Let's give you some update on what's been happening in court with eNCA's Govan Whittles. Now, Govan, thank you so much for making time. You've been listening to the arguments by the IEC and some of these interested parties. What have we had so far?
Afternoon, Clement. Well, a few of the interesting arguments center from around the possibility of actually holding the elections in October and what that would look like from a political party perspective, and especially for the bigger parties who have these massive processes to select candidates that would stand in these local government elections as ward councillor candidates or as proportional representative candidates. And we've heard from the ANC and the EFF's legal counsel so far, and they've painted a grim picture of what it would take for them to conclude those processes and then mount a successful campaign or a significant campaign that it believes would be effective in allowing it to contest fairly in these elections. And this is a sticking point because while other parties such as the Democratic Alliance have said that it is possible to campaign and reach the voter base through different means, the ANC and the EFF in particular have argued that without them being able to do these door-to-door visits, to hold the rallies and explain the manifesto to their support base, they would be severely disadvantaged in the run-up to the elections, and they've raised questions about whether or not the election could still be considered free and fair if they don't get that opportunity. And the EFF more especially has raised concerns that the candidates that they field in the local government elections, if those candidates had to contest in October, it would mean that the EFF's selection process of these candidates internally would have to be rushed through, and at times the national leadership would have to pick those candidates. And the reason that's important, according to the EFF, is that after the elections, an EFF member who wasn't afforded the opportunity to democratically contest for the position of EFF candidate in the ward councillor in the ward which is being contested could then go to the court and say that process in itself was not in line with the constitution of the party, and the party would be forced to then withdraw its councillor from that council, and then a by-election would have to happen in that council. The EFF also raising alarms about possible violence if people are not allowed to contest for candidacy within the party. Let's have a look at what they had to say.
The difficulty that is faced by society, should it be that this nomination process is not undertaken, is the potential litigation that follows. Perhaps we should invite this court to consider the potential damage to not having this process. The most obvious would obviously be, well, I was not permitted to run for candidacy as a nominee within the branch level as per the constitution of the EFF. And if that happens, hypothetically, the nomination list is created at a high level, at a national level of the EFF. The difficulty with that, any branch member can bring an application to say the process was not fair, it was not done in accordance with the constitution of the EFF. This is not just in the context of the EFF. One can imagine the same challenges which materialize or eventualize in the context of other political parties as well. The second challenge to not having the process run as it ought to is the difficulty with the political climate that we find ourselves in. I mean, we've got examples of the unrest that can come about should it be that parties or members of the community are disgruntled about decisions that they feel are unjust. If this process runs without it being free and fair, as you suggest, it won't. The difficulty we have is the political climate that would eventualize as a result of that. And we're inviting this court to have regard to that real possibility.
Govan, the Western Cape government has also put their argument forward.
They have indeed, through the MEC who filed the court papers, and we always expected one of the parties to make the argument of the dangerous precedent that would be set if the Constitutional Court were to grant an order allowing the IEC to postpone the elections. Of course, the Western Cape government views this as not the IEC seeking an order to postpone the elections itself, but the Constitutional Court essentially changing the Constitution. And that argument has been highly anticipated. it. Let's have a look at how it went down.
This court's decision, if you grant the Commission the relief it seeks, will stand as a precedent. And there is nothing to say that a court in the future, for the best of reasons or the worst of reasons, under the best of governments or the worst of governments, will not be asked by such government and will not grant relief which may abrogate justices any of the rights under our Constitution.